Welcome to Empty Nesters True Crime Podcast, where we explore chilling mysteries and dark secrets. With their nest now empty, Susan and Nancy have more time to uncover the truth and venture into the unknown. Let's step into the shadows together, shall we? Hey Nancy, how are you tonight?
Hi Susan, you sound a little under the weather.
I think I have a summer cold. No, I'm pretty sure I have a summer cold.
Must have picked it up on your trip.
Well, I'm figuring I picked it up maybe at the airport where we had a 3-hour delay just to come home. But
Yuck, those are the worst.
I know, and I didn't know it until after I'd already left the bar.
That would have been a better place to get stranded, but...
Well, I was like, Matt, let's go back to the hotel bar, or the airport bar. And then I walked to go get some M&Ms and I saw the line and I was like, oh, yeah, that's not happening.
Everybody had that idea.
A lot of people were stranded.
Oh, but you had a good time visiting Ariel, right?
We did. We had a great time.
The pictures look so cute.
It's a lot of fun. We got to do the preview of Tiana's Bayou Bay, and that I thought was super cute. I hear it has some glitches. It breaks down a lot. People have a lot of negative things to say about it, but I thought it was absolutely adorable. We did get to ride it. I enjoyed it. It's been years since I rode Splash Mountain, so I don't remember what Splash Mountain used to be like, but there was one drop, and I think I threw the F-bomb, and all I hear is, there's children on this boat, Mom.
Do you know my kids have never been to Disney? Isn't that crazy? My kids have never been.
Oh, we got to change that.
I know. I don't know what in the world, but that's one place we've never been. Well, they've never been.
We're going to have to work on that. We'll have to get you down there. Of course, you won't get on the airplane, so we'll probably have to...
Well, you know, I have gotten better. That's not my favorite thing to do.
It's like a little over an hour. You can do it.
And I haven't flown to Hawaii, and I still don't know how I got on that flight because that was one long flight.
Well, I've never been to Hawaii, so you got me beat there. But
so where are we going this week, Susan?
We're going to New Jersey.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about, it's such a fitting, it's not a fitting story, but kind of just going to Disney. Our tonight's drink is Oreo cookie drink. It's tasted.
Very good. I tasted Oreos right away.
Well, because there's Oreos around the rim of the glass.
That might have been a giveaway.
Yeah. What do you think it tastes like? A potent chocolate milk?
It's very potent. Yes, but it's good.
Yeah. So who we're talking about tonight will never ever get the pleasure of enjoying Disney World, and he will also never get the pleasure of doing things young children get to do, like eat Oreo cookies.
Okay.
We are talking about Corey Micciolo. Have you heard this story?
I have.
Yes, it's pretty hot out there. And I told you before we started live that kind of crazy how we don't tell each other what story we're doing. And we already know what story we're doing next.
Right.
In the back of our head. And we just keep lining up. Because like last week, yours was a child. This week is another child.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We've done a couple teenagers lined up like that. And it's just kind of weird how we think alike in that.
It is.
Little Corey was born May 1st, 2014. His mother, Brianna Micciolo, was 17 years old at the time of his birth, and she raised Corey as a single mother. Brianna started using drugs to cope with life. I think at first it was more like recreation use. She just wanted to feel better, and it ended up becoming a full-blown addiction for her, which you hear a lot in young people. They're just doing it for a good time, and it ends up being a whole lot more than they ever expected drug addiction to be.
And that's the scary part. We talk to our kids about drugs because exactly, you might think you're doing something innocent and you don't know where it could end up. So say no to drugs.
Yeah, and a lot of times the first high is the best high you're going to get, and then you're always chasing that high because you want it to be like the first one.
Oh, but she's getting into some more serious drugs here.
Oh, she's in serious drugs, yeah. Yeah, it's not just pot.
Right.
She's got problems with drugs. In her early 20s, she got high a lot, and she had already had Corey, but she says she never did drugs around Corey, and there was never any sign of neglect of Corey. When Corey was 4 years old, Brianna was not working, doing a lot of drugs. So she had no choice but to move into a townhome with her mother, her mother's boyfriend, her sister, and of course, Corey went along with her.
Mm-hmm.
So they lived in the basement of the townhome. Brianna's mother wanted Brianna to have a paternity test done so Brianna could get some child support and at least have some money coming in. Brianna didn't want to do this because at 16 years old, she was assaulted, and that's how she became pregnant. No charges were ever filed against this alleged, I'm going to call it an alleged assault, but I happen to believe her. Brianna just kind of ignored her mother wanting her to do this because she didn't want to do a paternity test because she didn't want the father of Corey to know that he had fathered a child. What she did decide to do was go apply for food stamps and health insurance for little Corey. But in order to do that, a paternity test is required because then the state goes after the absent parent to collect the money.
Oh, okay.
And that's how that works.
They go after the child support.
Exactly. Because if you're getting child support for that child, it's less funds the state is going to give you.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you have more of an income coming in. It was proven that Christopher Greger was in fact the father of Corey, and he was 21 when Brianna became pregnant. Mind you, she was 16.
She was 16.
So there's quite an age gap there. Brianna was just kind of hoping that nothing would happen with that and that nothing would change. Men don't like it when you go after their pocketbook, so Christopher was living with his parents at the time when he discovered he had a son. He and his parents fought and won full custody of little Corey. So at 5 years old, this little artistic, smart, big brown-eyed, funny little guy had to go live with strangers. And they used her drug addiction against her to get.
That's how he got custody.
That's how they got the custody. Christopher found an apartment for him and Corey. And from the looks of things, it looked like Christopher was stepping up to the plate, doing the right thing. Brianna was heavy on drugs at the time. Christopher had a steady job as a real estate agent. Christopher, he was an honor student in high school, a mentor to children. He had a psychology degree and even had a master's degree.
Oh, wow.
So he looks pretty impressive on paper. He's not, I've looked at his picture, he's not a bad looking dude.
Mm-hmm. I see him.
But Brianna fought really hard to get herself sober for herself and her son. She joined a rehab group. She was drug tested. She showed this to the courts, and she was granted joint custody on October 28th, 2020. The courts decided that she could see Corey every other weekend, unsupervised. Christopher and Brianna had to unblock each other on their cell phones so that there was free communication between each other, and especially so Corey, when he was with the other parent, when one parent had their visitation or their time with him, Corey had free-flowing visits that he could talk to the other parent. Whoever had Corey had to take him to all his extracurricular activities. The other parent was allowed to attend these activities. Christopher and Brianna were required to attend co-parenting classes together. When Corey was in Brianna's care, he could only be around her mother. You want to tell me how this works when you live with the mother, the boyfriend, and the sister? How's that supposed to work?
Right.
You know, how do you make that work when you live in a house that has two other people that you can't have your child around?
Yeah, that's not going to work very well. No.
And then, this part I get a kick out. No disparaging remarks were to be made about the other parent. Now, mind you, Brianna is stating she was assaulted by Christopher. That could be a disparaging remark, but she's not allowed to say it, even if it's true. And mean, I feel some kind of way about that. That should be something that's taken into consideration. I don't think she should tell little Corey that, but that's a hard one.
But that's a lot for her. I'm sure that's very traumatizing, even all these years. I mean, she was 16, he was 21. Is that a crime right there?
Maybe New Jersey does things different.
Mm.
Brianna followed these rules because she wanted her son back full time. She lived an hour away from Christopher. So there were times, in order to follow the rules, Brianna had to stay at Christopher's. Can you imagine how awkward that was?
Not just awkward, but traumatizing for her.
Every time she had to stay there, it was probably traumatizing. Even if there wasn't assault, it would still be traumatizing to stay at an ex's house. But she did it because she wanted to be with her son.
Aww.
In October 2019, Corey had his first alone visit with Christopher. He came home with a split lip, a swollen face. When Brianna asked him what had happened, he wouldn't talk to her. When Brianna asked Christopher, he claimed it was an accident while they were playing soccer. Brianna, even though she has a drug problem, she's a smart cookie. She took pictures.
Good for her.
Mm-hmm. And she contacted DCPP, which was what we would call in our area DSS. Mm-hmm. So, it's Children Protective Services. They have different names, it seems like, in any city. She contacted them when the injury started to become more of a normal thing when Corey would come back to her. DCPP ignored her and continued but she continued to document everything and followed the rules set up by the court. In April 2020, she wrote a letter to DCPP because she was getting pissed off because nothing was being investigated. They were just ignoring her. And why were they ignoring her? Because she's a drug addict? Mm-hmm. Because he looks better on paper? Because she's angry that she lost custody of her son? I don't know. But nothing was investigated, and she was not being taken seriously. And she's young.
Yeah.
So, she's, 21 herself? I mean, July 2020, Corey came home with bruises and 2 black eyes, along with what looked like bite marks. Brianna made a report. This time, it was investigated. But the interview, when DCPP went to interview Corey, they did this at Christopher's home. Now, who the hell thinks that's a great idea?
Nope. I'm just going to say we saw the last case. They need to take the child, put them with somebody they're comfortable with, away from the abuser, because I think the same thing happened to her. They're afraid to say anything.
Yeah, little Zara, last week's episode.
Yes, last week's episode, same thing. When they went to the house, same thing here. They're bringing up the accusations, so of course they're afraid.
Well, here's this investigator interviewing the 6-year-old child. If he's 6 even at this time, I think he might be 5.
They don't know who this person is. They're afraid, Susan.
Yeah, it's a stranger.
I mean, I'm not in social services. I'm assuming this is the normal procedures, but I would hope there was a better way to do it.
How this DSS worker or DCPP worker is going to interview this 6-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old mm-hmm. child. He's not going to be honest with them because they're abusers right here. Mm-hmm. And then they get to leave. And then you're left with your abuser? What the hell? What the fuck you think's going to happen? Mm-hmm. If he, it's like, well, if you don't tell me the truth, I can't take him out of the house. And I don't think they can just take him. I think it becomes a whole big rigmarole with law enforcement. There's all kinds of processes mm-hmm. that go along with that. It's not a good idea. When Brianna found this out, she was pissed. She had over 100 separate times documented abuse.
100 times.
Over 100 times. And he didn't even become in the little boy's life till he was like 4 or 5. Like, he's not in his life that long. Mm-hmm. March 2021. It kind of seemed like Brianna and Christopher were working more together. He would allow her to take Corey to the townhome for visits, knowing that the boyfriend and sister would be there. And March 20th, though, of 2021, Brianna took little Corey to go see her dad that he lived in Pennsylvania. They had a great day spending time together. doing what families do, mini golf, ice cream, just having a great time. But she was supposed to drop Corey back off to Christopher between 2 and 3 p.m. There was traffic, so she was running late, and this pissed Christopher off. At 3:04, she texted how bad traffic was, and Christopher told her however late she was from the time that she dropped him off, that was the time she could pick him up later. So, like, if she didn't drop him off till 4, she would lose an hour. So she was supposed to pick him up at 9 the next day. She couldn't have him till 10. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't, he was taking his time back because she's wasting his time and ruining his plans. And he said, and when you drop Corey off, don't come in. Just drop him off at the gym door at the complex. Like, he's a little kid.
Yeah, I think he needs to be supervised as he walks into a home. Mm-hmm.
So, but she did this, and at 4:14, she dropped Corey off at the gym. And she texted him, like, he needs to be able to get in. And he did get in. But then here comes the famous treadmill surveillance video. So Christopher's working out at the gym. Corey's there. And he starts to make Corey run on the treadmill. But his little legs can't keep up. So Christopher makes the treadmill go faster. Little dude's falling off the treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
I've almost fallen off a treadmill a time or two. They can be dangerous.
Oh, very dangerous.
I wouldn't want a 6-year-old on my treadmill.
And I wonder how, because I have to hold. Like, you know how you hold them things? Can he reach up? Can he,
Right.
Why did they say he's doing this? Just to be abusive?
Well, let's go on. How many times do you think Corey falls off this treadmill?
Oh, it had to be a lot.
It's 6.
Aw.
And the 6th time that little Corey falls off the treadmill, when Christopher picks him up, and it's on the video. I've watched the video's tough to watch. He picks him up. He's holding him on the treadmill while he runs. And while little Corey is running, Christopher bites him on the head. It's on the video. It's out there. Google it. Google it and be real pissed off. This treadmill event is on a Saturday, and Brianna doesn't get Corey back for 3 more days after that. And when she picks him up, she sees fresh injuries. And says that this is when she knows that Christopher took out on Corey his anger for her being late.
There, you answered my question.
He had scrapes on his chest. He had a forehead injury. So what does Brianna do? Files another report with DCPP. So then little Corey has these flag football tryouts. And Christopher told Brianna at the tryouts that she could take Corey with her. I think it was for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And she finds more injuries on this little child. There's a large bruise on his hip. There's multiple bruises all over his body. March 31st, 2021, Brianna files an emergency custody hearing, and she states, "I'm fearing for my child's life." DCPP wants Corey to be seen by a pediatrician. Now they're a little interested. The pediatrician wants Brianna to take Corey to the hospital for more tests. April 1st, the pediatrician at the hospital talks to Corey to find out why he has so many injuries. He tells her he fell off the treadmill. When she questions why he was even on a treadmill, Corey responds that his dad told him he was too fat.
Oh,
now,
my goodness, that's heartbreaking.
Google Corey Micciolo. That little boy is not fat.
No.
He is a tiny little thing. He is a tiny little 6-year-old. There's nothing fat about him. And he's adorable. Corey was so scared that he had said this to the doctor. They know the verbiage to use to get a child to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That he begged the doctor not to tell anyone what he told her.
Aw.
There's no telling what they're saying to this little boy. Like, I can just imagine. What he was telling, what Christopher was telling little Corey he would do if he ever told. Can imagine. My imagination goes with, hurt your mom, hurt you,
He was very mentally abusive to this little boy.
We don't even know what went on behind those closed doors. The pediatrician at the community medical center wanted Brianna to take Corey to Jersey Shore Medical Center for more tests. They had experts on child abuse. And it's like, finally, people are starting to listen to her. Brianna had to have Corey back to Christopher between 6 and 7 p.m. And now it was 7:30. Christopher is pissed. She's trying to explain to him that DCPP told her to do this, but he's livid. He tells her to leave the hospital and bring his son to him. At this time, Brianna says Corey is acting fine. The hospital does more blood work and x-rays. Brianna's phone runs out of battery, which we all can attest to, that we've had our phones die, especially if he's texting me 1,000,000 times, or her 1,000,000 times, and you're trying to talk sense, and we're talking it's late in the evening. You know?
Yeah, your phone's don't make a whole day.
But Christopher's losing his shit, and Brianna ends up taking Corey to Christopher the next morning. So April 2nd, 2021, at 6:45 a.m., Christopher's back to blowing up Brianna's phone. He tells her he plans on taking her back to court, take all her rights away, and she'll never see Corey. So Brianna does what Brianna does, because she's following the rules. Even though did she break them the night before? Yeah, she did. But she's trying to do what's best for her son. She knows, beyond a shadow of a doubt, he's being abused. So she drops Corey off to Christopher. I imagine, he already got custody once. What makes her think he's not going to get it again?
Right.
His parents live in over $1 million home. Her mom lives in a townhome. I'm sure that there's a difference in dynamics there.
And maybe what they can afford for lawyers.
Oh, yeah.
Think about that.
Damn. Do all kinds of stuff with a house like that to pay for some highfalutin lawyers.
I'm glad you pointed that out. That's definitely interesting to the story.
At 3:30 p.m., Christopher calls Brianna for Corey's medical insurance information. He's taking him to the hospital. She's like, "What's up?" And she's like, "He's lethargic and he's been sleeping all day." So she gives him the information because she's going to do what's best for her son. And then he hangs up on her. He doesn't tell her what hospital he's going to.
Oh, how scary.
He doesn't tell her shit. Brianna, of course she's freaking out. She begins to call hospitals and the police. 6 p.m. that evening, there's a knock on Brianna's door. And it's the police. And they inform her that her 6-year-old son has passed away. Could you imagine?
No.
Brianna did everything right by documenting the abuse. She followed the rules. Did they get a little laxed here and there? Well, Christopher was allowing it. I need somebody to make it make sense. I know social workers are overwhelmed. I know social workers who are amazing, amazing people. I just don't know where this little boy got lost.
From doing last week's case, I asked myself that the whole time I kept doing that episode. And they'll say, too many cases, overworked. It's not an excuse for this stuff to happen.
Well, we do an event every year for our DSS workers in the county at the spa. We do a chair massage event every day during Social Workers Month. And they are the sweetest people you'll ever meet. But I first don't think there's enough of them, and I don't think there's enough funding. I think first you've got to look at those two problems first. For people that don't need it, do we care? You're not going to need a DSS worker.
Right.
You're not abusing your children. Paul's not abusing your children. It's not even a thought that comes into your head. But there's a huge population that needs those workers to have those funds.
And to take that type of career, they have hearts of gold. So we know we're not saying it's the social workers. We're just saying it's a crack in the system.
It's a huge crack in the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a huge crack. And let us know what we can do to help that. Because it's something, unless you hear a story like this, that you're not even thinking about. It doesn't cross your mind.
Mm-hmm. But not to
doesn't.
follow up with over 100 reports.
Yes, I don't know.
Pictures, like you said, she documented it all. It's not even just hearsay.
That I don't understand.
Yeah.
And, well, let me continue. We are getting off task. Let's continue on. So we know Brianna did everything right. The emergency custody hearing she had the day before to get the emergency custody of little Corey was denied. The judge watches the treadmill video and says he finds no abuse.
How?
Have you watched the video?
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. It's heartbreaking.
Does the judge need to go to the eye doctor and have his eyes checked? Is my question. Do you need an eye exam? Or do you need to retire as a judge? I don't know.
Or does he
I'm just
know?
asking questions.
Does he know the family? I mean, is there some link to the judge? We'll have to Google that one later.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because sometimes that's how things slip by.
How you can watch that and not do anything is... When Christopher took little Corey to the hospital, they were doing a CT scan. And during that CT scan, he had because he didn't have a pulse. Then they got the pulse back. Then they wanted to do a CT scan, and he had a seizure, and that's when he passed away. The medical examiner said it was blunt force trauma to the heart and liver that was injured, and it caused an infection, and that's basically what killed him. But the medical examiner couldn't determine if it was on purpose or an accident. He's 6. But on July 7th, 2021, Christopher is arrested on a child neglect charge from the treadmill video. But he didn't even have to post any money. He just kind of got out on his own recognizance. Like, here's your court date, come back.
Yep.
In September 2021, Corey's death was ruled a homicide. March 9th, 2022, Christopher was charged with murder, and he was given no bail. Now, I think part of this is that I had listened to something where he had basically knew he was going to get charged with murder. Mm-hmm. So he fled to Tennessee. But his parents, I think his dad had spoke to him and said, you need to come back. And he came back. So he's a flight risk. Christopher was offered a 30-year plea deal that he did not take. The trial, the defense was like, the defense's case said natural causes. The prosecutor called it chronic abuse. April 30th, 2024, the defense tries to portray Christopher as his loving father. Even his defense attorney told the court when they see the treadmill video, they will not like his client. But that didn't make him a murderer. When Brianna takes the stand, she has to talk about her drug addiction and her relapses that she had. I think she relapsed 2 or 3 times. You know, when you're a drug addict, relapsing a couple times, that's normal. But she had not relapsed in quite a while from
good for her.
Time. Yeah.
But they're going to bring that up to show character. Mm-hmm.
Well, because that's why she lost custody of her son. She's a drug addict.
Right.
So if the defense attorney can make her look like a drug addict, it makes her look like a terrible mother. And that's not the case. Little Corey's first grade teacher, she testified that she had saw bruises and changes in his personality. The pediatric doctor from the night before said how hard it was to get Corey to talk, but he had 14 different marks at different stages of healing. And then the prosecutors bring up Christopher's Google searches. These are always fun.
Yes, they are.
I mean, there's nothing fun in this case, but it's interesting to see what people will Google when, do you not think people can find out? Nothing's
ever erased. That's the other thing. They always think they delete history, and they can find it.
They can find it.
All right, Susan. I'm anxious to see what this crazy person was looking up.
Will red marks turn into bruises? Neptune non-emergency number. I think that's a police department. Mm-hmm. Jersey Shore Medical Center. Lost consciousness. Sleepy. Can a phone be tracked in airplane mode? Can my car be tracked? What causes rise in blood sugar and white blood cells? He knows he gave that little boy internal injuries by that Google search right there. Can internal bleeding raise blood sugar levels? The GI system, internal bleeding, how does it happen? Can a GI bleed be slow? Directions to Tennessee. He was actually pinpointing different places in Tennessee, but they were all in the state of Tennessee.
Okay.
Murder determined at autopsy. How long to file charges? And then there's the hospital footage that they did use during his trial. Christopher comes in with little Corey. He's just calm and casual, no sense of urgency. There was no sense of urgency till the nurse saw Corey's face and his eyes were rolling into the back of his head. Oh, I'm not
that one hit Susan.
I'm not done telling you about this piece of shit, in my opinion. As Corey is dying, Christopher leaves the hospital. Comes back when he does come back, but then Corey's pronounced deceased and he leaves again.
Wait, go back. Why did he leave? He gets there with Corey. They take Corey and he leaves?
He leaves the hospital. But then he comes back. Here's his son is fighting for his life and he leaves. He leaves his son with strangers. But he didn't give a shit about him, so at least he left him with people who did, in my opinion. He comes back. Corey's pronounced deceased. He leaves again. The defense says he was in shock and just wanted to be alone. This is not typical behavior. If my child's dying, I'm going to be right there the whole time telling them they need to fight. I'll be holding their hand, and then I'm not leaving until when they have to make me leave.
God, these episodes get me, Susan. I don't understand. I don't flippin' understand. It doesn't matter what your child's in the hospital for. You're right there. I mean, Ethan Paul's had injuries, mountain biking injuries. You know, you're right there through the whole thing. You're back in the room with them. You know, you're listening to everything the doctors have to say. I mean, just think of little things. Having your tonsils out. I don't know if your kids did. You're always there.
You don't leave.
And he's fighting for his... I mean, this is completely on the other end of the spectrum of what I'm, getting teary-eyed thinking of my kids in the hospital, but your child is fighting for their life and you need to leave to what? Because he's traumatized?
To be alone.
To be alone.
But you left your son alone. I bet he didn't want to be alone.
That's sad. That's
when Zach, years ago, he had MRSA, and I spent 5 or 6 days in the hospital on a god-awful chair.
Oh, wow.
I never left.
Right.
The only time I left the room was to go get something to eat at the hospital cafeteria.
Because you want to be there. You want to hear what the doctors are saying. Obviously you want to be there with your kid. Why, oh, goodness.
You don't leave.
You don't leave. No.
You don't leave. Oh. Then after Corey dies, Christopher's pulled over. I think it was speeding or some kind of traffic violation. And when the officers pull him over, he talks about Corey's death and wants to blame Brianna for Corey's death. He's just blaming Brianna.
Why are we blaming Brianna?
Because he could. Because it's her fault. Nothing's his fault. Come on now. So Christopher's mother was supposed to testify on Christopher's behalf. And Christopher said he was going to testify and straighten all this out. He just has that kind of ego that I think he thought he could get away with it. But there was a recorded jail call that had come to light. And the prosecutor said, here's this phone call. He's coaching her on what to say. And you put either one of them up, and I'm using it. Because she wanted to use those phone calls. So she has to tell the court she can use the phone calls. Christopher nor his mother testify. So then we come down to the verdict. He goes out. I think they spent 5 hours. 2 days, but 5 hours for the verdict. Endangering the welfare of a child. He's guilty. Murder. Not guilty. Aggravated manslaughter. Guilty. So he can be sentenced anywhere from 10 to 30 years for the aggravated manslaughter charge. I think the endangering welfare of a child has a maximum of 10 years. So he could get
40 is what I was
40
thinking.
if they run them.
At the max. Back to back.
Yep.
The most.
But we don't know because the sentencing is August 2nd. And Brianna she has a lawsuit against DCPP and I think others. I definitely would sue the shit out of that judge.
How can you look at that video and not see what he did to that child?
Oh yeah, it's terrible. And I don't think I said absolutely at all today.
No.
It's absolutely terrible. There y'all go.
Right?
But it's pretty heartbreaking. It's pretty heart-wrenching. This little kid probably just, all little kids want a mom and dad. And then he had a dad. And his dad was a piece of shit, in my opinion. He's worse than a piece of shit. He is going to prison. He's sitting in jail right now. And I hope they have a good time with it. I hope he has a good time in prison. Mm-hmm. Because he is...
a child killer.
A child killer. That's why I was telling you about Alicia. Because I went down that rabbit hole and she's done some interviews since she's been locked up. Mm-hmm. And she's sitting there whining, oh, they call me a baby killer. Well...
because you flip an R.
That's right. That's what you are. You are a baby killer. I hope they torment you every fucking day.
Yeah, I hope somebody puts a picture of her on your prison wall and you have to look at her every day what you did. Well, so I guess we have to say he's allegedly a killer because he's not convicted of killing, but...
well, he is convicted of manslaughter. So
okay.
He is. He's a killer. Aggravated manslaughter.
Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah. So he is. He's going to prison. And he's, one thing about prisoners, they have children. They don't like it when people hurt children.
No.
Because they might be in prison, but they don't like child killers.
Yeah, they're not treated very well. I feel really sorry for his mom. Unfortunately, like you said, she got involved with drugs. She got help, but she always wanted to do the best it seems for her child.
Yep.
Follow the rules. That's the thing. She's trying to do the right thing. And then following the rules, unfortunately, led to his death.
Yep.
Giving him back to the father she knew was abusing him.
And she was just trying to make ends meet. It's the only reason why she did that paternity test.
Right.
Because she had nowhere else to turn.
And it's kind of like they pretty much force you to do it then, because they're not going to give you help unless you do the paternity test.
Oh, yeah.
So if they didn't do that, he would never have been in that kid's life.
Never.
Oh,
that's the thing. You have to do the paternity test because they want that.
They want that money.
Yep. And I get it.
Oh, yeah, I do too. But this was a case where, she was abused. She told him that he forced himself on her. Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's being said. Yeah.
Allegedly.
Because it's never been proven.
Mm-hmm.
But even if she was 16 and a 21-year-old, I told you he's a good-looking guy. he ain't my type of guy, but he's, I like nerdy-looking guys. But he's not a bad-looking fella. Yeah. If you're 16 and you got this good-looking guy
mm-hmm.
giving you the time of day, too, it's... especially if he comes from something that you don't.
He said he has money. At least his parents have money.
Yeah, but Brianna's beautiful. She is beautiful. Corey was beautiful. And my hope for Brianna, I don't know how exactly she says it, but my hope for her is to stay sober.
Right.
To follow through with these lawsuits and do something to change the system. Thanks for joining us on Empty Nesters True Crime Podcast, where we've delved into chilling mysteries and dark secrets. With their nest now empty, Susan and Nancy will keep uncovering the truth and venturing into the unknown. Until next time, stay safe and step into the shadows with us again.